You have ideas that matter. You have a vision to share. But are you being heard? Welcome to The Scintilla Effect, the podcast dedicated to helping you find your spark and build authentic influence in your career and your life. I'm your host, Mark Taylor, and it's time to make your impact. Hello, and welcome back to The Scintilla Effect. Mark Taylor here. So glad you can join me. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a high-stakes meeting? Maybe your boss just asked for your opinion directly, and you feel it happen? That sudden freeze, that your heart starts pounding, your mind goes completely blank, and a brilliant idea you had just moments before evaporates into thin air. You end up mumbling something generic, or worse, staying completely silent. Later, you're replaying it in your head, kicking yourself because you knew what to say. You had the answer, you had the insight, but in the moment that mattered, you were trapped. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not broken. That feeling is what I call the invisible cage. It's a prison built from the fear of judgment, and it keeps countless talented professionals from reaching their true potential. Today, we're not just going to talk about the cage. We're going to find the keys, unlock the door, and walk you through it for good. My name is Mark Taylor, and for almost 2 decades, I've had the privilege of working as a leadership and influence coach with everyone from ambitious startup founders to senior executives. My entire career has been dedicated to one thing: helping people dismantle the internal barriers that keeps their external brilliance from shining. I've seen firsthand that influence isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's a system of skills you can learn, and today I'm going to share the blueprint of that system with you. So let's start with a story. A few years ago, I was working with Anna, a brilliant marketing director. She was creative, sharp, fantastic at her job when she was working one-on-one or with her small team. But the moment she stepped into the executive boardroom, she would physically shrink. She'd shut down. Her boss told me, "Mark, it's like a different person walks into that room. I know she has incredible ideas, but we never hear them, and it's starting to hurt her career." When I finally got to sit down with Anna, she laid it all out. She said, "The second I open my mouth to speak, my brain just floods with 1,000 what-ifs. What if the CEO thinks my idea is naive? What if the sales team shoots it down immediately? What if I just stumble over my own words and look like a complete idiot?" Anna was living in that invisible cage, and it's a place most of us are intimately familiar with. Here's the first thing you have to understand, and this is crucial. This fear of judgment is not a character flaw. It's a biological feature. Our ancestors' survival hundreds of thousands of years ago depended entirely on staying in good graces with the tribe. Getting ostracized, getting kicked out meant almost certain death. There was no food, no protection from predators. So your brain evolved a powerful, sophisticated alarm system centered in a little almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala that equates social rejection with mortal danger. That heart-pounding, palm-sweating, mind-blanking feeling you get when you're about to speak up, that's your primal caveman brain screaming, "Danger. They might kick you out of the tribe. Don't do it. Stay safe." The problem is, that alarm system can't tell the difference between being chased by a saber-toothed tiger and your boss not liking your PowerPoint slide. Neurologically, it can feel the same. An fMRI scan shows that the pain of social rejection lights up the exact same areas of the brain as physical pain. So if a client saying no feels like a punch in the gut, that's because your brain is processing it that way. The first key to unlocking the cage is to realize this program is outdated. It's old software running on new hardware. The next time you feel that fear rising, I want you to try this. Label it. Just say to yourself internally, there's my ancient survival brain trying to protect me. Thanks, brain, but I've got this. This simple act of mindfulness, of separating yourself from the feeling, creates a tiny gap. And in that gap is your freedom. You start to see the fear not as a verdict on your abilities, but as a biological echo from a bygone era. You diffuse its power by simply acknowledging it for what it is. We'll be right back after this message. Now, acknowledging that fear is the first step, but building the inner confidence to move past it is a journey. It's about creating new mental habits and a stronger sense of self. And that's exactly why I wrote my ebook, the Life Flow Method. It's a practical, step-by-step guide packed with the exact exercises and mindset shifts I use with my one-on-one clients to build an unshakable inner confidence. It's about quieting the inner critic, finding clarity in your purpose, and getting out of your own way so your authentic spark, your scintilla, can finally shine through. If you're ready to stop letting fear call the shots and start building real momentum, go to marktaylorint.blogspot.com and subscribe to the newsletter, typing the word LifeFlow in the comment section to get on the waiting list today. That's marktaylorint.blogspot.com with LifeFlow in the comments. Welcome back. So, we've acknowledged the fear. We've started to create a little space between the feeling and our reaction. Now, how do we actively build the skills to thrive outside that cage? This brings us to a fundamental misunderstanding most people have about influence. We think it's about being a great speaker, a charismatic, silver-tongued orator, and while that can help, it's not the foundation. Real, authentic influence isn't built on speaking, it's about listening. Think about Anna in that boardroom. She was so trapped in her own head, consumed by her own fear, that she wasn't truly listening to the conversation happening around her. She was just waiting for the perfect moment to jump in, a moment that never came because she was disconnected from the flow of the room. I coached a sales executive once who managed to double his closing rate with one single change. He stopped starting his meetings by talking about his amazing product. Instead, he would walk in, sit down, and for the first 15 minutes, his only goal was to listen. He'd start with a simple question like, before we dive in, tell me what's been your most frustrating part of the process for you so far. He didn't sell, he diagnosed. He didn't pitch, he connected. He made the other person feel so deeply heard and understood that by the time he did talk about his product, it wasn't a sales pitch. It was a solution to a problem they had just defined together. He built trust before he ever built a pitch. This is active listening. It's listening with the sole intent to understand the other person's world, not just waiting for your turn to talk. The next time you're in a conversation, I challenge you to try it. Your only job is to understand. When they finish a thought, instead of jumping in with your own point, try saying something like, so, if I'm hearing you correctly, your main concern is blank. Is that right? The feeling of being truly heard is so rare and so powerful, it creates an instant bond. You cannot influence someone who doesn't trust you, and you can't build trust with someone who doesn't feel heard by you. Once you've listened and you truly understand, then your message can be simple. You don't need jargon or complex explanations. Just figure out one single thing you want them to remember and build that message around that point. Clarity is influence, but it starts with connection. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most difficult piece of the puzzle. What do you do when you're faced with someone who seems determined to misunderstand you? Constant critic, the naysayers. This is where you have to learn to neutralize the impact of negative and judgmental people. And we do that by curing ourselves of the same habit. Because when you judge others, you create separation. When you practice empathy, you create connection. There was a famous psychological study done in the 1950s called the Solomon Asch experiment. Researchers put a person in a room with a group of actors and showed them a line. Then they showed them 3 other lines and asked which one matched. The trick was all the actors were told to give the same answer, obviously the wrong answer. And what happened was astounding. Over a third of the real subjects knowingly gave the wrong answer just to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. That pressure to conform is immense. A judgmental person creates that same pressure. They create an environment where it feels dangerous to have a different opinion. Antidote is not to argue with them, it's to get curious. The next time you find yourself about to judge a colleague, I want you to challenge that initial thought. Your brain's first story might be, they're so lazy. I want you to consciously create a second story. I wonder if they're overwhelmed. I wonder if something is going on at home. You don't have to believe the second story is true, you just have to create it to break the monopoly of the negative one. When you can do this for others, you'll find it much easier to do it for yourself. And when someone else's judgment comes your way, you'll recognize it for what it often is, a reflection of their own insecurity. If everything we're talking about today moving past fears, communicating with connection, and building authentic influence. If it's resonating with you and you feel ready to go from just learning these concepts to truly embodying them, then I want to personally invite you to my signature online course, The Influence Accelerator. This is a comprehensive, multimodal program where we do a deep dive into every single one of these topics and so much more. It includes video sessions, live Q&As, coaching calls with me, practical workbooks, and an amazing community of ambitious, like-minded professionals on the same journey as you. This isn't just a course. It's a career transformation. It's for people who are ready to stop being overlooked and start being the leaders they were meant to be. Spots are limited to ensure it's a high-touch personal experience. Visit marktaylorint.blogspot.com and subscribe to the newsletter, typing the word accelerator in the comment section to get on the waiting list today. That's marktaylorint.blogspot.com with accelerator in the comments. So let's bring this all together. Conquering the biological fear of judgment, mastering the art of connection through listening, and replacing the habit of judgment with relentless curiosity. These aren't just separate tactics. They're a unified system for authentic influence. It's the framework that allows your natural, unique spark, your scintilla, to finally shine through uninhibited. Your influence isn't about a script or a technique. It's the natural, undeniable result of doing this inner work. So your call to action this week is simple. I want you to pick just one thing. Maybe you'll practice labeling your fear the next time you feel anxious. Maybe you'll practice active listening with your partner tonight. Or maybe you'll just practice creating a second, more generous story when you feel a judgmental thought pop up. Choose one and commit to it for 7 days. Small sparks create big fires. That's all the time we have for today on the Scintilla Effect. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. For links to everything we discussed today, including my ebook and the Influence Accelerator course, head over to marktaylorint.blogspot.com. And if you found value in this episode, the single best way you can support the show is to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. It truly helps us reach and help more people. Join the conversation on all the social platforms and Mark Taylor International. Until next time, go create your spark. The information and content provided in this podcast, The Scintilla Effect, is for educational, informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. It is not a substitute for professional guidance from a qualified expert in the field such as psychology, finance, or law. The views and opinion expressed by me, Mark Taylor, are my own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other organization. Mark Taylor International is not liable for the accuracy or completeness of the information provided or for any actions taken in reliance on it. This podcast may contain sponsored content or affiliate links for which compensation may be received. Such relationships have been disclosed within the episode. Always seek the advice of a qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding a personal or professional decision.